As we begin to come to the end of our discernment process, we might ask, how do I know when I have made a faithful decision? Discernment doesn't always match our timelines. It doesn't always measure up to our ideas of efficiency and to our strategies for success.
So a question that we probably all have after we've gone through a discernment process is, how do I know when I made a faithful decision? And for me, part of this seeking confirmation of the decision we've made is really, are the fruits of the Spirit there? For me, that is a really great affirmation. If we've made a decision that is really responding to God's future for us. You know, we talk about the fruits of the Spirit, and they're not just these nice ideas. They're not just these Sunday school words of hope and love and peace and joy. But they're actually real, tangible things. And they can be guideposts along our way. They can be key markers of when they are present, we know that we're working with God to create the future. And if they're not, then we know that maybe we want to again step back, reevaluate our question, and reevaluate our decision.
Knowing when we've made a faithful decision is something that we evaluate again and again and again. The way that we know it is as we look back on our lives and discover whether we are experiencing the fruits of God's love and care in our life. Is that being expressed more fully? There's a great quote by Mark Thibodeau. Discernment, then, isn't so much about what we do, but about who to be. It's about becoming a person in tune with the movements that lead toward God. The doing will flow from the being.
Along with new answers always comes the need for new questions. I think that is a key element in this process or pattern of discernment.
Finally, we recognize that discernment is never over. Discernment is both a way of life and a process that we go through when we come to those specific crossroads moments where we are making decisions that impact us and impact our communities. We are invited to constantly return to the habit of discernment, individually and in community, constantly aligning our whole lives with God's presence and invitation in everything.
As long as we're really trying to seek what God wants for us as we build the future with God, that there are no right or wrong answers. There's no way you can do discernment wrong if you come to it with an open heart and a willingness and a desire to build the future with God. We cannot fall out of the circle of God's love. Discernment is like that. It is not a process about right or wrong answers. It can be a process of discovery, of surprises, excitement and joys, doubts and questions. It brings all of that into the mix as we seek to answer, what does God really want for us?
This isn't always an easy thing. Sometimes we are called to disrupt the status quo in our own lives, in our communities, and our societies. And when we come to those places, we look again for that deep interior peace of God that might lie beneath whatever hesitations we have, returning constantly to that practice of spiritual freedom that makes us more and more available to God's presence in everything. When we look to some of the most courageous leaders in our history, we see that the practice of discernment and cultivating a rich interior life was an absolutely essential part of them enacting the courage that has brought so much transformation in communities and around the world. Taking that first step takes a lot of courage, but we trust that we move with God. God is not just in one part of the discernment process, but is with us along the way and in everything that comes next.